And now, back to the Tim Ridley Show.
It is 36 minutes past the hour. This is Tim Ridley on Sirius XM 146, and it is time for our good friend, Hope Zavara. She'll be talking about mental wellness this morning and burnout recovery. We'll be taking your calls as well at 615-292-6366. And, of course, if it's easier for you to submit that question via email, you can do that at tim@radionemo.com. Hope, good morning to you.
Good morning, Tim. How are you today?
I am doing well. How about you this morning?
I am doing fantastic.
Great. And you always are. You bring such joy to the show each time you come on. We always look forward to you coming on with the great topics that you have. And today, this morning, it's no different. Mental wellness and burnout recovery.
Yes, and this topic came about because a driver actually reached out to me and was asking about what he can do for himself. And he was kind of describing how he was feeling physically, mentally, emotionally. And immediately it was like, dude, you are burnt out. And it reminded me of a time in my life where I thought I was falling apart, Tim. I was stressed. I was fatigued. I was tired all the time. I was cranky. My health started, weird things started popping up. And it was really nothing more than burnout. I was burnt out. Mm-hmm. And I believe a lot of people, Tim, are walking around or driving around for that matter, burnt out from a lot of different things, from life, from their job. Stress can be a precursor to burnout, and they don't even know it. And I thought, what a great topic to talk about this morning, what you can do for yourself to avoid burnout, or maybe you're in burnout, and how to get back from that and just create a sense of mental wellness. I always like mental wellness better than mental health. Mental health to me has kind of a precursor stigma from years past on it. I feel like mental wellness is lighter and fresh and kind of a new hope, so to speak. So I thought this would be a great topic to talk about today.
And Hope, as you were just describing, as with what was going on with you, it happens to so many of us, and a lot of times you don't realize that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and I had no idea either. This was pre-Mother Trucker Yoga. I was running a yoga studio and fitness center, and things were going well, and I was teaching and running a business and had employees, but I was exhausted all the time. I felt guilty about being exhausted because here I was supposed to be doing good things for myself, good things for others. I was irritable all the time. I was starting to have bouts of depression again, but not long enough for me to think, this isn't a problem. I'm okay. Maybe it's just the weather. I live in Wisconsin. Or, it's just, I had a bad day. I wasn't sleeping consistently well. Anxiety was creeping back into my life. And looking at all of those symptoms separately, I always kind of had a reason for them. And I think many people listening can probably relate to that, where I always could connect how I was feeling or what physically was going on or what ailment was kind of oddly coming and going. I always had some way to say, well, that's why. But it just consistently started to build and build and build. And months went by, and it really started to wipe me out, where I started to get scared, like, what's wrong with me? And when someone brought up the idea, someone I very much trust in this area of life, and she's like, have you ever thought maybe you're burnt out? And I kind of laughed at her. I thought, yeah, I'm in my early 30s. Like, no, I'm not burnt out. And sure enough, a lot of these symptoms that I had that fall under the category of burnout were in fact burnout. And I think for a lot of people listening, you may be thinking and feeling the same way I did. And in fact, you're going down the same path I was. And I think this is a relevant topic because the more we justify away how we're feeling physically, mentally, emotionally, the more it's going to lead to major health issues that may not be reversible or may have some long-term effects. So if you kind of heard some of the symptoms I was reading off, that feel like that applies to you, other signs of burnout can be difficulty concentrating, loss of appetite or overly like a gained appetite, social isolation, like you just don't want to be around people, even if they're the people that you love, even if it's like normally I love these people, I love being around them, bouts of anger, constant upset stomach, just feeling hopelessness, just feeling like you're constantly a pessimistic person. And I started feeling that way. And I'm like, I'm the most positive person I know. And I was starting to feel like everything was bad in life. And there is hope. That's the good thing. There is hope. And this doesn't mean the end for you. And this doesn't mean you have some, weird disease that's going to take you out. But you do need to start advocating for yourself. You do need to start to say, I need to prioritize myself. And I do see this a lot in the trucking industry. There's this undertone, Tim, of I don't need to take care of myself. I will just grit and bear it. Nothing will affect me. I just have to keep going. And I'm here to say it doesn't have to be that way. We can change that. I guess you could call it a little bit of a stigma around this industry that it's okay to practice a little self-care. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to take care of yourself and prioritize your health, because without your health, what do you have?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to take a break, but when we come out, let's talk about the recovery. How do you recover from burnout? And also, I have an email that just came in, and opening it up right now. He said that you described him right to the final point, and as far as how you were feeling, and he wants to know where he can start in going, with the process of recovering from this, and which you'll be, covering that in the next after the break. But he goes on to say that he works nonstop. He's trying to get caught up on everything, and he hasn't had a day off, Hope, he says, in over a year. Not a day off at all in over a year. So anyway, he needs some tips on where to start. He says, I don't like anything, I don't like anybody, and I'm just mad at the world. And so we're going to, Hope is going to help you, brother. So you just hang tight. We'll come back on the other side of news and weather. We'll be talking about the recovery, how to recover from burnout. And we're discussing with Hope mental wellness and burnout recovery here on the Tim Ridley Show on Sirius XM 146.
From the park, I hear rhythm. Molly's heart on the ball.
Hope Zavara of Mother Trucker Yoga discussing mental wellness and burnout recovery. Hope, he's burnt out. He says that you described him all the way down to the final point. So how about some tips on how he can, handle what he's going through and recover, and also how to recover from burnout?
Absolutely. I feel like the first thing is to acknowledge and accept where you're at. A lot of people I talk to, past and present, are a little bit in denial of the fact that, this is happening. They are at this place in their life right now. And we can almost get into a place of a little self-loathing of like, why me? How did this happen? Maybe some external blame. And so the first part is just to accept where you are at in your life right now. It doesn't matter how you got there. It doesn't matter the circumstances, who did what, why you did what. Just to accept that this is where you are at. Because once you really accept the space you are in, that is when you can make change. That is when you can bring in new, and that is when you can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so from that acceptance, for me personally, it was recognizing I was caught in this hustle and grind culture. This idea that if I just push a little harder, work a little longer, if I could outwork the next person, then somehow I'm going to win the award at the end. No one ever told me what the award really was, but that idea and approach is flawed. that on paper that looks like a great idea, but to a real human, it's just not possible. And so from that acceptance was the awareness of what's really, kind of going on around me. And I was feeling the pressure. I was feeling this invisible pressure that these things were happening. The second thing is gratitude. I know we've brought up gratitude before, Tim, but I can't emphasize this enough. A grateful heart and a grateful mind can really change your perspective on life. And so one easy thing to do every single night before you go to bed is just to repeat to yourself 3 things that you are grateful for. And I like 3 categories. I like people, I like places, and things that have happened to me, things that I've been given, anything in that category. And if you want to push yourself a little bit more in the right direction, do 3 on 3. So 3 in people, 3 in places, 3 in things. And it really challenged myself, and people I've suggested this to look for the good. That even when you're feeling really down, really overworked, really stressed out, it's like, I got to find something. And then it's like, well, if I can't find something, now I have to start doing something because I got to find it by the end of the night. And so that first thing is acceptance. The second thing is gratitude. The third thing is recognizing that there are no quick fixes, because sometimes our first reaction is, how can I just get rid of this fast? How can I just drop 10 pounds? How can I just get back to feeling myself again? And that this might be a longer recovery. This might be something that is stretched out over time, and that's okay. It took me months, if not over a year, to really feel like I had recovered from some pretty extreme burnout. And I had to accept that my body was really breaking down and that I needed to do something and that it was going to take time. And so giving yourself that gift of time. The fourth thing is a little bit more tactile. I would highly recommend, obviously, consult your doctor, consult your physician or your health counselor ahead of time. But looking at supplementing your health with something like B vitamins and D vitamins, and I prefer methylated. They're more easily absorbed, and they can really help with gut health. But B vitamins are essential, and many of us are lacking them. I did get a blood test done, and I didn't realize that my B and D levels were almost non-existent due to the high levels of chronic stress I was dealing with. It was like burning through the fuel. It's almost like your truck burning more fuel than what it's designed to do, and you got to replenish it. You have to replenish it the right way. You have to replenish it consistently. And so that's something that we can all physically do, more of a tactile thing, to start to support our mental wellness, to start support our health. And that's a long game because you have to replenish what's been depleted, but that can make a real difference. Other things to think about is start to evaluate your diet, start to evaluate what it is you're fueling yourself with physically, food, because you are what you eat. And typically when we're feeling burnt out, when we're feeling stressed, what do we start doing, Tim? We start reaching for the crappy foods, and we might already be eating crappy food.
Yeah, and that's generally one of the first things you do.
You look for those self-soothing foods, something fatty, something greasy, something sugary, because it does numb us emotionally. It does spike our blood sugar. It sometimes spikes our cortisol levels. It gives us that feeling like a high almost. And so recognizing that happens, knowledge is power. But when we recognize that this does this, when I eat unhealthy foods, when I eat high sugar, high fat, this is what happens to me. Now, at least when we have those real drops in mood, which are a sign of burnout and chronic stress, and then we have this kind of spike for a while of maybe a happiness, and then we're down even lower, what could be causing that beyond just my workload or my boss or whatever it is? And a lot of it is what we're putting in our mouth, how it is we're feeling ourselves. Other things to think about is, could I possibly increase my activity level? Could I get a little bit more active? There is so much research around exercise. If you don't like that word exercise, call it movement. It really is a natural elixir to boost dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin in the brain. And there's enough research now that says 15 15 minutes of any type of continuous movement is going to give you that dose to help boost mood, which is going to help fight some of those feelings that our driver that rode in today was feeling. And again, recognizing, I can't say this enough, Tim, this is a long game. There is no overnight fix to burnout or chronic stress. This is something that has been accumulating over time for years for you. This has been building over time. And so we're going to peel the layer off one at a time. And that acceptance piece, accepting the things I cannot change, and the willingness to know the difference, and the ability to move forward despite the obstacles, like that is something that we have to constantly remind ourselves of. The last piece, and this was a big one for me, Tim, and maybe you've experienced this, is setting boundaries. Setting boundaries in my life with, at the time, employees or your employer or loved ones or friends and family that maybe trigger you or overwhelm you. But starting to look into this idea of boundaries can be something incredibly healthy for your mental health.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is absolutely true. And I'm going to go back to time and that you've mentioned, and it makes a lot of sense. Reason being, well, for all reasons, but another reason being is that it took time to get to the point where you are now as far as burnout, if a person is experiencing burnout. And burnout is something that kind of gradually comes upon you, and then when it comes to a head, it kind of explodes, but it's been coming on long before we even know it. So you're right. It took time to come upon you, and it's going to take time to get through this and get over this and to recover from it. So we have to have the patience to deal with the time that it takes. One of the things that I really like amongst everything else is that you say that it's not going to happen overnight, and it won't. But the one thing about it is following all the tips that you've given. We have to realize that it is very important, because if not, again, something that you mentioned early on, Hope, that it will cause other areas of illnesses in terms of things that we sometimes will not recover from. Just like it can cause cancer, it could cause stress-related issues. And so we have to make sure that we stay on top of it the best way we can, and to follow your tips, because once your health is gone, you're going to lose everything else in terms of your means of making money. I mean, it can get to that point to affect the means that you make money as well.
Yes, and I'm in recovery and been in recovery for several years now. And one thing a counselor said to me that really helps, and I think about this in a lot of areas of life, so we're going to apply this. 1 month for every year that you have been living with addiction. And I think when it comes to things like burnout or chronic stress, or even just you've been feeling really down, or maybe you've been struggling with your health for some time, how long has this really been going on? When you look back, I mean, we just don't become overweight overnight. We just don't all of a sudden feel depressed one day. Like, this has been an accumulation over time. And I say that not to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm defeated, but rather to say, you know what, this is going to take time. I'm going to give myself grace. Every day is not going to be perfect, but if I still keep the intention that I am going to practice self-care, that I'm going to accept where I am right now and practice gratitude and do whatever I can each day for myself the best I can, and just be okay with that, you will find weeks will go by, months will go by, a year will roll up, and you'll look back and say, I've come a long way. I've come a long way. I am starting to feel better. I am starting to see a change, but I got news for you. Nobody can change your health. Nobody can change your attitude about life. And nobody can change your situation until you decide that you are worth it and you are going to prioritize yourself.
Yep, that is absolutely true. That is right. And, I really like the way you broke everything down, and it is going to take time. And I've had burnout. I've suffered burnout, experienced burnout rather on several occasions. And it, like I said, it comes upon you, is working on you slowly before you even realize what's going on, and then it gets you, and then it takes time to get over on the other side of it. But patience is the key, isn't it?
Patience is the key, and sometimes even voicing that you're struggling with this. It was very freeing for me to let people know, I'm really struggling right now. I'm dealing with some burnout. I'm overstressed. And it gave me the grace that I needed from other people, because they kind of had these expectations of me because of how I was always acting and behaving, of kind of just like high functioning, always go-getting, which is my personality, but it was getting the best of me. That kind of gave me the grace to be able to step back and not feel so guilty then, because guilt then came when I started to make changes. But by letting people in and letting the people in your life that are safe and close to you, that this is how you're feeling and this is what you're going through, can also give you some breathing room to be able to make those changes, to be able to set boundaries and practice gratitude and take breaks for yourself. Maybe, start to do some breathing and start to exercise, whatever it is that those people around you will just start to support you and start to encourage you and start to give you the space that you need to take your health back. Because like you said, Tim, without your health, what do you have?
That's right. We have just about 10 seconds. Can you tell everybody how to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Find us over on social media, Mother Trucker Yoga, or head to our website, mothertruckeryoga.com.
All right, Hope. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, and have a wonderful week.
Thank you.